Hey fellow gamers, Chatty Sisa here. So this is another update for Dragon Age the Veilguard. There's a ton of information that's released basically on a daily basis now. We did get some new vids, so there are two new vids which are related to a Mage gameplay. There is one gameplay that we can see which has most of these, let's say, colorful effects turned off. So it looks kind of different to what we have seen previously. And then there is also a separate vid on the setup of that Mage, which we can see in that gameplay. So it helps us to understand more how the skills, abilities and runes are impacting that gameplay. At the end, I have some additional information which we also received, but in written form, and that one is related to how we will be able to transfer the decisions from the previous Dragon Age games into Dragon Age the Veilguard. And I will say it right away, the response to that wasn't so far very great from the fan base. And largely it didn't really matter whether it was like people who are like really hardcore fans or even if it was like people who were supportive of the game so far. It's not really some great information, to be honest. So unfortunately the roller coaster of marketing which we have seen so far is continuing. So let me go through the vids and then let's discuss at the end of the vid like this information that we have received. Let's review briefly the first video, which is the official gameplay trailer from State of Play 2024. I would like to highlight on this spot that this is a vid from a point which is further on in the game, so in case there is somebody here who would like to avoid spoilers, I wouldn't suggest not to watch this part.
We've gotten word from the Wardens.
Have they found Gillenane?
Not yet, but they found something else worth killing. One of her blighted dragons.
Rook, you made it. Good.
Wouldn't miss it. We have unfinished business with that dragon.
We've tracked it to a ruined tower nearby.
That lair is a death trap. We need to lure her out to have any chance.
Okay, let me quickly stop it here. That's just a side note in terms of story or immersion. You want to tell me that there is a dragon hiding here, and you've managed to bring here so many people and set up entire like machinery without that dragon like waking up or noticing or whatever. I mean, this really doesn't make that much sense, but all right, that's just like my observation here.
So we challenge her, draw the dragon out into the open, then attack. Just you and me now.
Everyone, get ready!
Orders!
Yeah, there's one thing which I would like to highlight here. It's especially visible on his forehead, but it will be also on Rook's forehead, and I've seen some people online already calling it like Klingons. It is this kind of weird bump on the forehead, so technically all the whole facial like structure and the entire face is like very smooth because of this cartoony style. And then whenever they make a facial expression like here that they are angry or worried, they have this kind of weird bump here on their forehead, and the rest just like remains smooth. And normally if you look like this, so when you are worried or when you are angry and you do this with your eyebrows, like you put them together, there's a crease normally that forms, not necessarily a bump. And yeah, it's just looking quite weird, and it will be the same also on Rook's face. So it's in general the facial expressions that I am seeing that have me a little bit worried in order not to have a repeat of the same problem that we have seen already in Mass Effect Andromeda, that the facial expressions were really not so great.
Ready, ballistas!
Yeah, there's the bump again. So as I've said, I think it's more emphasized because the rest of the forehead is so smooth. So yeah, it's just looking weird. Again, my only worry is even if I omit this one detail and I tell myself, okay, it's just now here in this scene or whatever, in general, because those faces are so smooth, some of the facial expressions will look like out of place and unnatural.
Come on. Come on.
Okay, there is one thing which I need to mention here again on this spot, and let me just stop it because it's now quite well visible. If you look at that dragon, I mean, I understand that they wanted to do a different design here, especially. First of all, it's a different game than Dragon Age Inquisition, for example, where the dragons had like very prominent horns and they had a very different design. So they went another route, and this one is a blighted one, so again it will be like mutated or changed through the blight. But the missing of the horns completely, and then this kind of weird bump here, the dragon looks in certain spots in this vid like the cat. Again, there's so much that reminds me of Mass Effect Andromeda, from the combat style to even some of the like details on the characters. If you look at that dragon from the front, you will see that it looks like the cat.
Hit the wings! Force her to land!
Second detachment! Flank on the walls! Let's go!
Yeah, here. I mean, if you look at that, it's exactly like the heads of the cat were looking like. They also had this kind of like bump on their head. It's very, very similar. And again, one thing that I want to highlight here, somebody did a good job in turning off all of the all of these colorful explosions that we have seen in the previous gameplay vids, that there was an oversaturation of various colors and effects, and that's turned off here for the most part. So I do like it that it's not so distracting and you can focus more on your enemy and on the fight that's going on. And what I have also noticed is the amount of damage that Rook and the companions are giving to the dragon is really super small. So if you look at that entire health bar, these tiny portions which are being like chipped away during the fight, this would take forever if you would like use all your weapons and all your skills aside from the combos. And they will show a little bit later on the combos, and you will suddenly see a huge increase in damage that you are dealing to the enemies. So it is consistent with what they were saying, that the combos help you bringing down the enemies faster and are dealing way more damage than just like normal standard fight. But I find it a little bit imbalanced here, that all your efforts aside from the combos are yielding just this really tiny portions of damage. And if you look at the damage that the companions are dealing when Rook is, for example, just preparing for a spell and not hitting the dragon at the same time, it's almost invisible. So the companions are not really dealing that much damage aside from Rook. And that is also something that was highlighted by someone else as well. I do have to agree here on that point, that it basically reminds me of the fight in Dragon Age 2 with the Arishok, where you were fighting the Arishok completely alone, and the Arishok as such was very like overpowered compared to Hawk at that moment, and you had a lot of fighting to do to actually like chip away his health. And on the other side, on the higher difficulties, one hit was killing you. Like one hit from the Arishok was killing you instantly. So the disproportion or imbalance between the damage that you are giving and the damage that you are receiving is visible here as well. And I have to wonder how much that is customizable. If this is the effect of the let's say standard setting or the so-called balance setting, then I would definitely advise everybody who's going to play the game to go into the settings in the beginning and just like maybe play around with the customization of this balancing, like the damage, how much you're dealing and how much you are receiving. And if there is an option to play around and customize the damage that your companions are dealing, then I would definitely also go for that. Okay, I have to say here on this spot, I like this one like circling skill or ability. It did cover a large area around the mage, and I'm curious to see like what skill or what ability this one is, because this looked to be quite helpful. This is the combo that they are going to use now, and just before the fight I just stopped it to see where we are with the health bar, and notice when they are using the combo how much of the damage will be done to the health bar. So that was a way bigger impact than previously when you were just fighting the dragon without the combos. They still had to cut it again, so they had to shorten it. They wanted to squeeze it into a 4 minutes vid, and yeah, I can understand why, because obviously, again, when you look at the health bar, it's taking way too long to bring down this one dragon. Alright, and there we have Ghilanane, and it's supposed to be very terrifying. I have to say, when I compare this, for example, to Corypheus was much more unsettling or horrifying if you compare them both, and I think it's simply because the creature that we are seeing here in Ghilanane is, while it does have like multiple arms and tentacles, it's still having this mask, this metallic mask, which looks kind of like cutesy. I don't know how else to put it, but that's what I've noticed like already before when I was talking about the game, that the enemies look kind of like cute instead of being like terrifying and unsettling. And I think the mask here is just emphasizing it. It's not an enemy that would instill fear in me when I'm playing the game, or if I would be playing the game. I'm looking at the cute mask, or yeah, I don't know how else to put it. But if I compare it with Corypheus, where you could see like this partially human face and this molded something, he looked way more terrifying and way more unnatural, and you really didn't want to talk to him, and you didn't want to fight him because he was like so he just gave me much more like horrific vibes than Ghilanane here, I have to say, unfortunately.
Ghilanane.
Consume their flesh! Shatter their bones!
And that's the same also for the Darkspawn. If you compare the Darkspawn here in this game, but we already discussed that. But yeah, if I compare it to Dragon Age Origins or Dragon Age the second game, yeah, again, this looks kind of cutesy. It's absolutely not giving me a fear of this being it an enemy. No, it's just, I don't know. It looks kind of cute.
Battle is already lost.
Okay, so that was it for this vid. Overall, I have to say, from all the gameplays that we have seen for the warrior, the rogue, and the mage, I actually do like the mage the most. Even though normally I'm playing the rogue, but I do like the mage here. I'm not sure whether it's because we have seen so much now of it, or whether it is because here the colorful explosions have been all turned off. But I do believe that if they would be playing this vid right next to the what was it, the first gameplay trailer, the overall perception would probably be a little bit different by the players, because what they have seen in the beginning was a very goofy trailer for the companions. And then, as I said, these colorful explosions, which just didn't give anyone this Dragon Age vibe. And if they would be playing this bit alongside that and would be showing it, okay, look, this is what it can look like if you turn a ton of things off, I think the overall perception would be better. So from my point of view, the mage gameplay looks good. It's not so bad, but there are still these things which I'm pointing out that just either don't make sense, or they are just not something that I would consider to be a Dragon Age game, or a component of a Dragon Age game, like these cutesy enemies, etc. And what I've just said is also reflected now currently in this ratio. Even though the combat wasn't so bad, and even though I don't consider in general this mage combat with all these turned off colorful explosions that bad, people are seeing it very negatively. As you can see, we have 1.7k likes and 3.9k dislikes. And I think, again, this is partially because at this point, a ton of people are already very, I don't want to say confused by the marketing, but they are not convinced. So this marketing roller coaster, as I called it, was not in the favor of all the vids that are now being released. And I think this one is a good example of that. The overall dislike ratios are continuing as well on the second trailer or second vid that we've got by IGN. As you can see, it's 1.5k likes versus 2.5k dislikes. I will talk a little bit less in this one, simply because there's a good explanation for the mage build done already by the person presenting this vid.
I'm Hilary Heidi, a producer at Bioware. Let's take a closer look at the mage build we featured at the recent State of Play. I call this build the Dragon Killer because my gear and skills have been optimized to take on a powerful boss, this ice dragon. As a mage, I can switch between two weapon sets, a staff for ranged attacks, or an elemental orb and dagger for close quarters combat. I'm facing off against an ice dragon, which is vulnerable to fire, so I've equipped Earth Emerald's Ash as my elemental orb. It reduces enemy damage, makes burning last longer and do more damage, and increases the cap on burning stacks. My dagger, Thorn of Misfortune, gives me access to the physical damage type and synergizes with my affliction-based build, increasing the damage of arcane bombs, which I build up with repeated orb attacks. I've further powered up my afflictions by equipping this death mask, which will give me a nice damage boost. You'll notice my armor set looks a bit different than the icon. That's because I'm making use of the game's transmog system to set my.
And here I will stop it this time, and I have to say this is one of the biggest positives that I was actually looking forward to in this game, but at this point I will be honest, I'm not sure I'm ever going to play it, but I have to praise this one, the transmog system. I really appreciate that you can really choose what you wear based on the looks, and then just the moment you find something which has a better stats, you can just simply apply those stats to what you are already wearing, and you don't have to change something like your armor just because it has better stats but looks like ugly. So I like the fact that this detail is allowing you for a really great customization, and every single one of the rooks that you are going to create can wear technically something completely different, and again apply stats from something completely different. So I really appreciate this detail.
Appearance to this Tevinter Mage robe I purchased in Docktown. Let's switch over to my character's skill tree, where I further enhanced my ability to take on this ice dragon. Elemental Catalyst gives my abilities plus 15% bonus damage. In this case, fire damage, since both my staff and orb are fire-based. Inner Focus generates 25% extra mana from successful light attacks, and that number is doubled against enemies suffering from an affliction, like burning. So each time I attack my burning enemies, I'll generate 50% extra mana, allowing me to cast powerful spells like Meteor more often. Let's take a look at some additional skills I've unlocked by choosing a specialization for my rook. In this case, Spellblade, which blends magic and melee. With the Electrical Burns passive, my fire attacks stack even more afflictions on my targets, applying the Shocked Affliction whenever I apply Burning, and vice versa. And finally, my Spellblade ultimate ability, Thunderous End, unleashes a massive amount of damage, shocking enemies in a wide radius, perfect against a large target like a dragon.
I will just mention here again, I did already mention it previously, but while I appreciate the amount of skills in that skill tree which you can have and the passives, etc., I would have preferred to have them split into different skill trees and not have it in this one big chunk of a mess. For me, it looks still kind of messy, to be honest. And the second thing is that I would have really appreciated if you could take more than 3 skills with you into a fight. So yeah, but that's something which I have already mentioned previously.
Return to our battle with the Ice Dragon to talk about synergies and combos. Here I've got the dragon staggered. This is my opportunity to deal as much damage as possible while it's down. Detonations are a great way to do this. A detonation can be set up with Lucanus's Debilitate ability, which applies the Sundered status, followed by Rook's Dark Squall, which detonates sundered targets. I'll follow this up with Tasha's Fire Breath to apply burning damage. Normally I'd have to wait for my companions to cool down before.
And notice here again, what I have mentioned previously, that it's taking almost half a minute, which is way too long in a fight. But there is one very positive thing which she will now mention.
Or I could use their abilities for another combo. But I've got a secret weapon up my sleeve. the Dreadwolf's Lyrium Dagger. My dagger is equipped with 3 runes. I'll toggle to the regroup rune and activate it, instantly refreshing my companion cooldowns.
And that is a huge bonus point, because if you are fighting a boss like this dragon, every second counts and every bigger damage that you can deal counts. I am just wondering like how often you can use this regroup. If that regroup also has like a cooldown that basically you can only reset the cooldown once and then have to wait anyway. So I'm wondering like how this one will work in the game then.
With my companion's full suite of abilities available, let's finish this thing. I'll once again use Lucanus's Debilitate to set up a detonation, and this time I'll trigger it with my meteor attack, all while Tasha's fire breath keeps the dragon burning. And I'll finish the job with my powerful ultimate ability, Thunderous End.
Alright, so that was the Mage build. I think this gave us a better idea of what skills and abilities we have seen in the previous fight. And like I said, the biggest positive here for me is definitely this reset that you can do of the skills so that you can trigger these additional combos, because the damage which we have seen outside of these combos is really very, very small. And for the third part of this vid, I have the information about the decisions, how they will be imported into Dragon Age Veilguard from your previous games. And we've got it here in written form. And many players were wondering how much of that state of the world that you had after playing 3 games will you be able to import into Dragon Age the Veilguard, because that's already the 4th game and different people can have various, let's say, state of the world, at least from the major decisions which they were making throughout Dragon Age Origins, Dragon Age 2 and Inquisition. And the response is something that was very disappointing to a lot of people, because it's here in the end of this paragraph. Basically, you can only import 3 decisions, not even import, because we are not able to use Dragon Age Keep. We will be able to set this up by the start of Dragon Age Veilguard, while you can import your Inquisitor via the character creator, as we have been told. You will have to make these decisions here in the game. And those decisions are who your Inquisitor romanced. Okay, again, like, this shouldn't be the most important bit, but I understand why it's here. And especially if it was, for example, Solas, it will have probably an impact on the story or some dialogue options, etc. Whether or not you disbanded the Inquisition, and whether you vowed to stop Solas or save him. And that's it. So if you look at the options which you have available to be set up, everything is depending just on the Dragon Age Inquisition game, which is logical, it's the predecessor of Veilguard, but it's as if you would have never played Dragon Age Origins or Dragon Age 2, and it's as if there would be absolutely like no impact from these first 2 games, which kind of makes me wonder, because there were a couple of open questions which were left open by the end of these games. And I don't know, for example, like what happened to Hawk in Dragon Age Inquisition. There is, I obviously there will be no mention at all about this. I mean, there is a mention that there will not even be one-liners in this text. Let me show you that one. There's a couple of reasons for that. For one, the team focused on choices that they felt they could react to meaningfully, not just a cameo or one-liner. And the absolutely vast majority of people, even those that have been so far like defending, let's say, the choices in Dragon Age the Veilguard, and that have been fond of the game and how it is and have only seen it like positively, even those people have said, I would have rather preferred to have a one-liner or a cameo than nothing. And this is something that's very, very disappointing to a lot of people. And this one also gives you a good hint in case you are also a fan of the Mass Effect franchise. And you were wondering how they will be able to incorporate in the next Mass Effect game the happenings or the events from the Milky Way as well from Andromeda, because that was something that was hinted so far throughout the trailers and all of the little bits and pieces of info that we got. This might be your response. So basically, whatever you did in the trilogy and whatever you did in Mass Effect Andromeda, they will probably just pick 2-3 important choices, and that's something you will somewhere click on in the beginning of the 5th game, and that's it. And again, if this is their approach towards also the next Mass Effect game, then I don't think we have a lot to look forward to, especially not people that have been playing all of the games from the original trilogy and the Mass Effect Andromeda game. So this is kind of disappointing, and it's not a great lookout for Mass Effect as well. And to top it all off, we have a very recent post by David Gaider, the original writer for the Dragon Age games, from Dragon Age Origins up to Dragon Age Inquisition, who wrote on his social media or on the Blue Sky social media, apparently the usual suspects are upset at how woke the new Dragon Age is, and apparently sudden and unexpected development in the series fucking tourists. Calling your original fan base that actually made you into who you became, a Bioware, a part of Bioware, who went from a very small studio to a super successful company because of the gamers that bought and played your game, and I will again emphasize the word bought, they gave you money, and you are calling them now fucking tourists. I don't know, like, do you hear yourself speaking? Because this is crazy. And even though he's no longer working at BioWare currently, but you have people here currently in BioWare who are trying to sell you a game which is criticized mainly by the original fan base. And yes, also because it's woke, but as I said also in one of my comments, we know that the games have been woke to a certain degree already before. But it was incorporated in the games in a manner where people could just go with it because there was a bigger focus on other aspects of the story. And you didn't have like mandatory pronouns, or you didn't have some other stuff which is now currently there. And it's right there from the start. And actually you have now someone in charge of the game who hasn't been there before. That person had recently in an interview alongside with some other people who were working on the game not even recognized Zevran. I would call these people fucking tourists and not your original fan base. So calling those original fan base players who are now like voicing their criticism and their opinion as fucking tourists just made the selling point or marketing of the current BioWare people very hard, because everybody will look at this, and even though Gaider is no longer working for BioWare, people will be very, very upset by this. And it will, like I said, it will not be helpful, and that is definitely not going to sell the game any better. I think rather more people will now turn against it. So this was not exactly the best move, and I wonder if his former or current colleagues are happy about when someone says something like this on a social network where it can be seen by thousands of people. So yeah, in this case, considering that I have bought and played all the games before in the Dragon Age franchise, I don't consider myself being a fucking tourist. So yeah, from my side, this is just another, let's say, nail in the coffin. If I see something like this, I can say, okay, good, you know what? You're not going to get my money, at least not until the game is on sale, no matter how good the combat might be and no matter how good the story or the writing might be. But at this point, it's just getting too much. And that's it for this update. We have seen 2 vids, we have seen the information at the end. I have to say from my side, as I mentioned, currently for me it's a no. When I consider all of the positives and all of the negatives, there is a ton of things which I like and which I've highlighted that I find really good. But currently the negatives for me are outweighing the positives. So like I said, unless the game is on sale, I will definitely not buy it, not day one. And I will also wait for the reviews from people who have bought it and will play it. I would love to really hear your thoughts on that. All the opinions are welcome, whether it's a positive or a negative. I'm happy to discuss. I will try to reply to all of you. Please try to stay polite and try not to attack others just because they have a different opinion. Criticism isn't bitching, as I've mentioned already before. So in case you like this vid, please don't forget to hit that like button below. And on this spot also, huge thank you to everyone who has already subscribed to my channel. It's been quite a few people in the past few days, and I'm really very grateful. I'm happy that you are here, and if you like the channel, please check it out. There are a ton of other vids as well on different topics, so I hope you can find something that you like as well. Thank you very much for watching, stay tuned and game on.